My name is Nick Dion. I am with Trend Micro. I am a business development manager here. I work with a bunch of folks helping them win. I do want to kind of set the stage. Trend is coming here together with Intervision, who is a cloud managed service provider who I believe just hit 30 years. Trend as well is not a brand new child in this space either. We're just over 35 years old. So we have a lot of expertise and tenure across our companies, with expertise of developing applications and supporting customers along the way. I think this is a really good partnership. Intervision has a new AI innovations team, and we are joined by VanHouten here. Want to shout him out. He'll get a moment to shine in just a moment here. As well as Jason Dablow, who's a principal sales engineer on the Trend Micro side. Jason, I guess, do you want to start off with maybe just a quick introduction to yourself, and maybe a little bit more about the work that you're doing with Intervision?
Yeah, absolutely. So you pronounced my name correctly, Nick. Jason Dablow, a principal engineer here at Trend Micro. I've been with the company for 22 years now, coming up on 23 years in May. Started in support, have been doing all sorts of really fun roles from the technology side, and really been an engineer in the past 9 years or so. Do a lot of public speaking around cloud and cloud security. I'm really looking forward to this presentation with Nathan. Well, not really a presentation, but more of a kind of a roundtable discussion around one of the hottest topics that's out there, generative AI. Just coming back from reInvent a couple of weeks ago, and it seemed like every other booth out there had Gen AI in the name. So really going to be a really fun discussion, and been working with Intervision for quite some years now in terms of with their cloud teams, their cloud security teams, and really helping customers really go through that digital transformation. And now we're going through another transformation, says Gartner. So should be fun, should be a great ride, and looking forward to the discussion today.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. And Nathan, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Nathan. I'm a software engineer by trade. I've been doing software engineering for over 8 years now. Been with Intervision for over 5 years, leading their AI innovation team, as you mentioned. That's going to cover both AI ML, that's been out for a while, and the new generative AI technology stacks that have come out in the last year. Also have a strong background in cloud and working with our cloud innovations team and our data modernization team, since those are very tightly coupled. But yeah, looking forward to discussing with everyone today how Gen AI can be useful for them for security and beyond.
Nice. Awesome, guys. Well, today is going to be a super interactive session, everybody. So please spam the chat with what you ate for breakfast, or more importantly, questions about generative AI. That's going to be kind of the topic of the show here. And if you enjoy it, we can have more. But ultimately, I think, our goal today is bringing two leaders together in the space, Trend with security, Intervision with cloud operations and managed services. So I think ultimately, this is the future. Let's address it now. And who better off to help you, I guess, jump into that pond with Intervision, and then, of course, making sure that your data is secure and private with Trend. So I think that's kind of our point. That's our mission today. At the end, we'll have a QR code where you can sign up to learn more. You'll also probably get some emails from us as well. But I appreciate your time that you're giving us today. Only 30-ish minutes or so, trying to get you back into your day, not take up too much time. I guess we can maybe start off. Gen AI has exploded across the industry earlier this year. I think you can't really go a week without seeing some new news story about Gen AI, and the accessibility of it, whether it's creating Instagram profile pictures or maybe launching a cyber attack. I mean, it's very accessible these days. So Nathan, I'll start with you. Should businesses approach Gen AI with more caution or more open arms? What's your kind of opinion on where this is landing today? And it's kind of
great question. I think both. It depends on the company. If you're in a high regulatory company, you might want to have some caution when it comes to Gen AI. Do due diligence of understanding the security and privacy implications. For the most part, I've looked at all the big offerings from Azure, AWS, and the Gen AI offerings do have really great privacy and security compliance as well. So I think you can be more than hesitant but cautious in those industries. I think it's really important for industries to jump into experimenting with this technology as soon as possible. To understand more about what this can unlock for your company and to bake that into your strategy for the next year and for the future of the company, because this is not going away. It's only going to get better and better. So I think we're at the cusp, where this is a great time to dip into the water, so to speak, and start looking into how this can help your business.
Sure. And who are the leaders in this space? Like who do we really need to be paying attention to? I know OpenAI has had a lot of noise, and I think Microsoft is a big investor of them. Who do we see kind of separating themselves from the others over the next few months? And is there a reason that we should maybe prioritize, or put our buckets in a single horse?
Mm. Yeah, there's so many companies out there now. The Silicon Valley has really gotten flooded with, lots of AI startups ever since, ChatGPT launched last year. And that's great. It's good to see that market movement. I think you'd want to watch the hyperscalers, right? You'd want to watch Azure, Microsoft Azure, Amazon AWS, Google GCP. Watching the big players in IT and data are going to give you a good sense of where the technology is moving, because they're like the primary adopters of the technologies, right? There's also other big players. Obviously, OpenAI really kicked this off. Anthropic is another LLM developer that's going to come out with more breaking technologies, and Hugging Face as well as those are some good places to look. But if you really want to dive deep, there's dozens of companies out there. But I think to keep it simple, to see where the market is moving in the short term and long term, if you just look at kind of the big three, and then also some of the more independent AI developers, it'll give you a sense of where the technology is moving.
I kind of echo that same sentiment too, in terms of, sticking with the cloud providers, AWS, GCP, Microsoft to start. Of course, if you're already building in those environments with some of your resources, it makes it really easy to start getting on the same generative AI kind of train, if you will. But ultimately, yeah, if you're already building in these cloud providers, you have access to really the serverless infrastructure that allows you to really build out these models, be able to start taking advantage of it, whether it's for a customer-facing project for your business or introducing better processes internally that might help your business grow or accelerate revenue. So that's always my finding as well, is the leaders are always going to be where you're currently building today, which more often than not is in one of the three top cloud providers. But I wouldn't count out things like Oracle, IBM, and with their Watson X and things like that coming up in the future as well.
Watson, that's a really good call it actually. I mean, I think that kind of speaks to, like, Watson has been a name that we've heard for what, 15 years now? I mean, initially with what Jeopardy, I think is where it made the big name. So I think that also speaks to Gen AI not necessarily being a new thing, right? Like it's obviously there's been developments in the platform, but where I kind of am curious, like when you think of Gen AI, you might not think of Watson immediately, but you're also not thinking of Trend Micro. So I guess, Jason, like what is Trend Micro's position in AI? How familiar is Trend with AI? Like, what's that story look like?
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that me personally as a technologist, I just see as generative AI as that next step of kind of the technology growth of AI in general. From Trend Micro perspective, we've been doing it since 2008 with our backend reputation technology, Smart Protection Network, moving to email with a lot of our anti-spam technologies, introduced artificial intelligence, lots of machine learning, 10, 12 years ago with all of our anti-malware stuff. And then I would say more recently, with DNA writing style analysis with all of our email solutions. So finding out, business email compromise attacks where looking for the urgency within an email for a payment to, say, a specific vendor. Things that aren't exactly like a piece of malware included in a Word document that's much easier to find, but finding within natural language of executives in terms of, hey, do they usually write this way? And let's compare this to look for an urgency of a payment or something similar to really kind of find out that business email compromise. So I would say it's a long time trending, if you will, at trend to utilize latest technologies, including Gen AI. And I'll touch on some of the things that we're doing both from an in-house perspective as well as for our customer facing, but want to give a chance for Nathan to answer too.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so for utilizing Gen AI, we've got kind of multiple strategies. I think overall AI has been around for a while, right? Like the AI ML technologies have been out for over kind of 10 years. And Gen AI is really kind of just the newest layer on top of a lot of AI technologies and other, cognitive services, we'd say. NLP is a big component, and for the large language models and foundational models, et cetera. So our strategy is mostly, to incorporate all of the cloud providers, different AI offerings, to be a little bit more broad across the platform, so we can meet the clients kind of on what platform they are, and also to allow clients that might have a lot of infrastructure on Azure, right, to be able to use some of the AWS and GCP AI offerings as well, so they can experiment with those. So you're not tied to kind of one platform or one service. You can try different things out. But yeah, overall, we're really, we see generative AI as having a huge implications for our clients. So we're really well invested in the space. I think, it has a lot of implications for security, also accessibility, providing better experiences for everyone, and also kind of better experiences for customers, sales, and productivity enhancements too.
Yeah, so I think touching on use cases in a moment, one of the important, I think, pieces of this kind of new wave of generative AI is the natural language processing. I think you can think of how experts might have needed to know really detailed formulas. I think now you can just use your voice, right? You can use your own wording to find all these sorts of bits of information that are important to your business. So that, along with use cases, I think that's a really interesting one. I guess, Jason, I want to switch to you for a moment. I think you have some ideas of use cases that you think are really cool that you want to bring up in a sec, but I guess first, before we get there, or you can mix this in however you decide, everybody's got access to it now, right? And trying to secure customers, I think this kind of opens up a lot of new vectors of danger. Not to scare anybody, obviously AI has been a lot of fun to play with, but there's also some downsides to it and some negatives. I think it's really raised the playing field, right? Everybody's on a new level together, and exploring that is interesting, right? So how is that affecting kind of your customers, your day-to-day, and then what stands out as far as superior use cases that you've seen?
Sure. And yeah, I would say the same thing in terms of not being doom and gloom. Excuse me, I got a little frog this morning. But obviously the technology is out there for attackers to use as well, and some preliminary stuff that I've seen in terms of finishing out an attack by, hey, can you give me an example of Mimikatz running in this environment? Certainly there are safeguards in place and a lot of the AI models that say, hey, what you're asking is a bit nefarious, but you could basically just word it a different way and you get the outputs. But honestly, from my personal perspective, from a security engineering point of view, is that this is nothing new within the environment. Hackers have already had access to this information. The dark web is easily searchable to see, different scripts or enhancements that can be made. That's, very similar to what, this Gen AI would be kind of including within their models to give this type of information. So if anyone is familiar with the term script kiddie, I would just say that it's kind of the next evolution of that. You have now people that can just pull more scripts, but I would say traditional defenses that are deployed in most customer environments already have protection capabilities into most of these things as well. So I'm not too worried on the attacker point of view, because a lot of these already have access to that technology. You would just be, enabling someone with less information to perhaps get better quality scripts, but it's nothing new that any cybersecurity company would already have protections against. In terms of use cases, I just wanted to point out too that we have, from a Trend Micro perspective, one kind of internally, just to help with our processes, is that it's great training models based on language. So ultimately, from our point of view, our support engineers are able to create success articles very easily using an AI assistant. So what happens is based on it can create a summary of a case that was closed, and if it's kind of relevant to multiple people, you can summarize it using AI and then make the final touches before publishing it as a success article. So we really found that it helps our customers by really putting out more information that's available to them from a business aspect. But also, I mentioned a number of technologies from the protection point of view from Trend Micro, but one of the things also is within our visibility platform, Vision One, it allows us to really go through the insights of what's being displayed as, say, an alert or an event that's happening with it, and then give the insight into the person that's using it through our AI companion app as part of that Vision One platform. So for instance, if you had, say, a junior IT engineer or someone that wasn't well-versed in security, you can ask them about a security script or a PowerShell script or some type of event that's happening within our security console. And it'll give you the kind of the lay of the land, if you will, on what that was actually doing. Is it doing something nefarious? Is it malicious? Or is it just something that, hey, no, this is fine. This is a normal command, normal process, where normally it would cause a Google search or something similar where you have to look up more information. In this case, it's right there at your fingertips to really help elevate, the staff using the solution without everyone being security experts, so they can get real context for that.
I've actually seen that demo. The thing that is pretty cool, just like you said, I think a good example is like a junior security person. Not only will it give them kind of that perspective of what on their screen, what are they looking at, but also it could even help them write an email, right? Like whether it's a customer incident or just a question to their boss, it can take what it's seeing and use kind of that expert vocabulary and then deliver that, right? Help you write an email, help you send a direct message on Teams or something.
And
I think that's
yeah,
something
maybe just one quick point too, Nick. Is something like base 64 obfuscation. So you can basically decrypt a large block of data that is unreadable to human eyes, and it'll actually print out what it's doing. And then again, give you that same context of whether that's something nefarious or safe. So that's one of the really cool features that I like. That's really unattainable unless you went and downloaded a base 64 decoder. Went through all that process. The AI can do it right, within that platform.
good point. Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to start. I guess, Nathan, what are kind of some of the use cases that you're seeing in the different sectors of customers that you're supporting?
Yeah, definitely. I think, before we dive into the specific use cases, there's three large buckets where I think all the use cases live. I think the top is analytics, right? Like the ability of generative AI to give you analysis from large data points, or to aggregate some data points, or to speculate on the data now is really big. The other area, the top area, would be productivity. The ability of generative AI to enhance existing workflows, like you said, help you create emails, help you be more productive in the applications that you use. Also, the next one would be new experiences, right? Like generative AI can really provide better experiences for kind of existing use cases. For example, call centers or customer support is a good example. I think everyone has experience, calling their bank, and then you have to, press 1 if you want English, or press 2 if you'd like to go to checking or insurance, or, and it's pretty tedious, right? I think in the future, we're going to see that be completely deprecated. We're going to get on the phone with banks and they'll say, hi, how can I help you today? And you're going to interact much more realistically like you would with a person. Say, yeah, I saw something on my checking account. I'd really like to talk to somebody about this. Sure, no problem. Let's look at your information, verify it's you, etc., and get you to a specialist that can help. I think those new experiences can reduce the friction that we have with kind of existing automation that is a little behind, or a little like every common frustrations with everybody. Another example I would say is like virtual assistant chatbots, right? Like chatbots have been around a while, but they're better and better. Like before it would take a lot of programming and you'd have to put specific conversation flows in. That's kind of changed, right? We can put a chat kind of bot on top of an existing pile of data, and it interacts with that fairly well. So if you have a lot of, for example, HR documentation and policies, you can very easily get to a chatbot that answers questions for employees and looks through those policies to answer kind of common questions. So that's another common use case we're seeing a lot of people start with. And it makes sense to start with somewhere where you have a good amount of data already.
That's a good point. I've spent many hours in the past life writing kind of scripts for a chat bot and trying to make that work and just needing to feed more and more data to it. So I actually thinking now, yeah, I wish I had ChatGPT to do that for me. So you help me think about wasting hours of my life a few years ago. Appreciate
state machine. State machine logic for anyone that's worked with it. It's good, but it definitely bloats. The more states you have, the harder it is to write, and it just gets really difficult really quickly.
Yeah, Nathan, I'll start with you for this next question then, and then Jason, feel free to chime in. But what steps do you recommend organizations should take to prepare for 2024? I know it's going to be a big year, a lot of big movement. What's your thoughts there? That was for Nathan, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Nathan, Jason, sounds similar.
Yeah, I'm looking at the overall trend, for ChatGPT and all the other generative AI. I think it's really good to, like I said, it's a great time to experiment with generative AI and what this can do for your business. Look towards enhancing the productivity. I think it's a big mistake. Like we've seen some articles, where some companies are trying to replace people with automation right now. I think that's way too early, and I think that's kind of not a great strategy. I think we should look at where we can make everybody more productive to provide more value to the company. So I'd advise that for anyone that's looking into automation. We also need to look at kind of like Jason mentioned, where generative AI is being used, for example, by attackers. SlashNext, IT firm, security firm, reported that since the fourth quarter of last year, there's been a 1,200% increase in phishing attacks, right? Those phishing emails are either easier to generate or and it also kind of bypasses some of the existing norms we've seen about phishing, right? Like all the phishing training that we've had for the last 20 years is look for broken language or look for broken grammar, because that's a good indication that this is suspicious phishing. Well, you can now feed that through ChatGPT and get perfect grammar and perfect language. So the environment is changing a little bit. I think people need to be aware of that, not just inside the generative AI technology space, but look how that's impacting other areas as well. I think it's also really important to invest in business continuity as well. We have seen more ransomware attacks. Actually, one of the I think Insomniac Games just recently got hit with a big ransomware attack as well. And I know they have really good IT as well. So I think it's really important to look at, business continuity, loss prevention from a cybersecurity perspective. I'll let Jason speak more to that.
I was going to say real quick, we do have a very brave chatter named Kevin asking if Intervision has services for folks to evaluate Gen AI use cases. And if so, how do they get started?
Yes, we do. We offer multiple services. We offer a generative AI strategy workshop where we can take a full day with kind of executive, C-suite, or senior leaders to evaluate your business's strategy for generative AI and inform how generative AI can really advance your business. We also have smaller use case workshops just to help ideate different use cases you could have for generative AI and get to some early adoption. We also do custom software, proof of concept development. Really, get a hold of us. We'll get in on a call with you. We'll kind of right size, your journey into generative AI and start you off, where it's comfortable for you. So, and we do also offer larger readiness assessments that are much more extensive and can give you a long-term strategy goal as well, for the balancing your short-term wins and your long-term strategy.
And I guess I do want to ask one question at the end. We are starting to close out. I guess, Jason, just from your perspective, companies wanting to get into Gen AI, what are your thoughts? Can Trend help with that? Where would you take them?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And maybe just a quick comment on the 2024 kind of what I expect to see too is I just wanted to give a quick throw out to Amazon Q, which was released at reInvent, which basically one of the cool features that I thought was looking through infrastructure that you have built on AWS to ultimately see if you have misconfigurations. Misconfigurations in cloud services is still the #1 leak factor as it relates to data exfiltration or data leakage. For example, having a bucket that wasn't supposed to be marked as public is public, and now your data is basically leaking out for whatever was in there. So things like that, although they've done great with Trusted Advisor and making sure the configurations are accurate, particularly around that bucket use case. Amazon's Q is going to be really super cool when it relates to other misconfigurations, particularly around new services that are launched at reInvent. And things that are still, at the edge of technology, but they still have kind of the knowledge in terms of how to best protect against that. I would expect Microsoft and Google to either have those solutions already or be released very quickly as well, because it is to give the insight on how you're building in terms of solving those errors, whether it's misconfigurations or cost optimizations, is going to be that next step for cloud providers to offer value to their customers, to us that are all using these cloud providers. From a Trend Micro perspective, for just use cases, Nathan mentioned ransomware. I fully expect ransomware or more like data selling, so data exfiltration and then selling the data back, either externally or back to the company. I think that's going to still be on the rise. But simple tools you can use from Trend Micro as protecting the assets where they're running. So using something like our attack surface risk management for cloud, for any cloud providers, which will help really give insight and risk to all those kind of open areas of attack that you might have. To things like if you're running this on, say, an EC2 or a server somewhere, make sure that you have protection capabilities both for the compute itself as well as the surrounding resources, whether that's storage, network, etc., since all of those things come into play. And lastly, I would just mention that we haven't talked a whole lot around permissions, but I think it's really who has access to what data is actually in the data lake for an AI to use is going to be super poignant and coming up in 2024 and beyond, and really making sure that people, we're least permissions in terms of making sure that the right people have access to the data that they have, and we're not leaking stuff through a Gen AI system. So that's what I had a comment on that, Nick. So I appreciate the question.
That's a really good point. I mean, it's back to basics, I think, in some capacity, but also, the basics can now be scanned at 1,000,000 times per second or whatever, right? Like, I think that's kind of the new paradigm, and we're all on that same playing field together. So, that's a really good shout out. I'm gonna give it 5 seconds for any last thoughts in chat today. I don't. I'll again give that some time. I think ultimately what we're here to do deliver together is our story. We can help customers together open-handedly, whether it's on the more development side and getting prepared to launch something big in this space, or just managing your infrastructure in cloud, protecting yourselves from these types of openings. Together, Intervision and Trend Micro are here to support you however you want. We have a QR code on the screen here. You can go ahead and scan that with your phone, and we can set up next steps. We can talk further about how we can work together to protect your environment in any direction, whether you're looking to just make sure you're covered in the basis of Amazon well-architected review, or you want to go hard and build something big. I think we have a really good play and use case to work together to support and empower you. But I think that does it for now. Any last words, guys, before we close this thing out?
Sounds very ominous. Last words. I won't. I'll save my last words for a later date. But in terms of closing this out, I want to thank Nathan and Intervision for partnering with us in terms of talking about this cool new technology, and I'm really excited to see the new use cases that both our customers come out with together.
Yeah, thanks for hosting, Nick, and thanks, Jason, for attending. Enjoyed this session. I would say, to our clients watching, if you're nervous about anything we said, or if your head is spinning maybe about, generative AI, or you're not sure where to step in the pool, give us a call. We're here to help you kind of navigate that space and identify, when to jump into generative AI, and how you can make an entrance to that without huge cost expenditures as well. We've helped a lot of clients kind of get into this space and understand this better. So happy to work with everyone, and partner with Trend Micro as well for the security side of things, which we feel is really important. So thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for joining. The pool is warm. Don't be scared. Look forward to continuing the conversation into the new year. Hope everybody has some time to enjoy with their family as we close out 2023, and on to the next one. It'll be a big year coming up. So again, appreciate everyone for sticking around. And if you're in YouTube comments, feel free to pose questions or scan this QR code. That'll get you right to us, and you can feel free to bug me with all of your emails and attempts to phish. Never mind, I didn't say that. Have a great week. Have a great rest of your year, and bye for now.